My granddaughters stayed the night with us this past Saturday. That, in and of itself, isn't anything worth talking about. We love having them over, they love staying over, and it makes for days filled with play, questions, and so much love. I feel almost like having grandkids is life's way of giving me a second chance at parenting. A chance to be more patient, more supportive, less tired, and more willing to join the playing that is happening instead of being so busy managing the home that I forget that memories are being made. When we're in the middle of the whirlwind of raising children, so much energy goes into keeping everything moving in the right direction. Are the kids dressed appropriately? Is the laundry done? What's for dinner, and has it been picked up at the store? Is the house reasonably clean? Are the kids' boots getting too small, or will they do for another few months? All of this, on top of everything else, a job, getting enough exercise, keeping touch with friends, managing romantic relationships, family relationships, there's always something that needs doing. And now, when I have my granddaughters over, I get to experience some of that childhood magic again, without quite so much of the responsibility attached to it. I get to notice the dress. I get to cook an elaborate meal in the mud kitchen. I now have time to stop and listen to the very important story that takes 15 minutes to tell. I get to be there for the memory instead of worrying about everything that needs to happen around it. I've gotten into the habit of always saying yes if I don't have to say no. I ask myself, is there actually a reason to say no? And if there isn't, I say yes. I don't mean that I was always saying no to my own daughters or that I say yes to everything now, but if there isn't a good reason to say no, I say yes. That makes for some really fun, imaginative activities and curiosity. This weekend, it meant that after dinner, my 3-year-old granddaughter got to dress up as a princess, sparkly dress and all, to go out and play. We are lucky enough to live on a street that has a preschool and a jumping pillow, so there is no lack of places to play, and she wanted to be seen in her sparkly princess dress, so we went outside and started walking toward the jumping pillow. When I chose to have yes as the default answer, I knew that sometimes that might mean that we would be having pancakes for dinner. Sometimes it meant putting down my knitting to join whatever imaginary world was being created on the living room floor. This weekend, it meant wearing a princess costume out to play. She was so excited to get going that I quickly put on my shoes, not realizing there was a small rock in it. It was uncomfortable, but when I asked her to stop so I could try and get it out, she did what 3-year-olds do quite well and just kept running like she didn't hear me. You see, she was just excited to be out in public in this big American princess dress, and she wanted to get to the jumping pillow and jump. I kept walking, annoyed about the rock in my shoe rubbing against my heel. And there I was, a grown woman, annoyed at a 3-year-old for not stopping so I could deal with the very small rock in my shoe. She wasn't doing anything wrong. She wasn't being difficult. She was 3, doing what 3-year-olds do. She was wearing a princess dress on her way to jump on a big inflated pillow. I was the one with the rock. But here's the thing about rocks in our shoes. When we have them, it's very hard to think about anything else. We eventually made it to the end of the street. She very calmly practiced her road safety, that is, stopping by the crossroad, looking both ways, listening for cars and waiting until they stopped to let her cross. And once we crossed the street and made it to the jumping pillow, I could sit down and remove that very small rock from my shoe. This experience made me think of a friend of mine. When she was annoyed at strangers that were rude in the store, bad in traffic, or in some other way negatively impacting her day, she would remind herself, I don't know anything about the rocks in their shoes. Someone who was driving slowly could be driving this way, because their grandmother, in her finest clothing, was sitting in the back seat holding a cake decorated with whipped cream and strawberries on her way to a party. Someone who was rude in the store could have just lost their job and were struggling to figure out how to make the money they have in savings stretch until they have another job. We are all living whole lives, and we only ever get glimpses of those lives from strangers. But what happens when we remember that everyone around us is living a life that is as complicated and as full as our own? It is so easy to make everyone around us a character in our own story. The person who cut me off in traffic is the idiot who can't drive. The person who is rude at the store becomes an awful person. When a mother is struggling with her children, we can quickly become experts on her parenting. We take one tiny moment from someone's life and turn that into their entire character. It's so easy to judge quickly, to label or imagine a stranger's whole life just based on one small interaction. We know our own motives, our own fears, our bad days. But when we look at someone else, we only see their behavior. If I think about my own life, how many moments would I want someone to use to decide who I am? The morning I was impatient? The day I snapped at someone? The day I was tired and didn't have much to give? Would I want those moments to become the story someone tells themselves about me? So when I catch myself rolling my eyes at a stranger's behavior, becoming annoyed at their bad driving, or even judging how they interact with their children in the store, I gently remind myself that I don't know anything about the rocks in their shoes. It helps me to show more grace, to judge less harshly, and to realize that these people have whole, complete lives that I know nothing about. Now, I'm not saying that we should excuse harmful behavior or accept being treated badly. Not at all. Grace doesn't mean having no boundaries. It simply means remembering that we don't have the full picture. So now, when I catch myself being annoyed at someone, I try to remember that rock in my shoe. They could be carrying one too. It might be tiny. It might be enormous. Maybe they don't even know it's there yet. Or maybe they don't know what it's like to be without rocks in their shoes. I don't need to know what their rock is. I just have to remember that it's probably there. We're all walking around with things other people can't see. And perhaps one of the kindest things we can do for each other is to leave a little room for that. I'm Sandra. I live in Iceland. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're returning, welcome back. I'm so happy that you've decided to join me. On this channel, I share the slow process of building a handmade wardrobe that grows and changes with me. Sometimes that means knitting something new. Sometimes it means sewing, mending, or even unraveling. I used to think that every finished project was exactly that. It was finished. Once it was bound off or off the sewing machine, it either became part of my wardrobe or it disappeared into the back of a shelf if it didn't quite work. But over time, I've realized that a handmade wardrobe isn't something that's ever completely finished. It's something that I continue to shape and evolve. So if you enjoy knitting, quiet mornings, thoughtful conversations, and finding beauty in ordinary days, I hope you'll feel at home here. Hello. Thank you for staying through the introduction and on to this podcast part of the episode. I'm always so appreciative at how many of you stay through the whole thing. So thank you. I am going to tell you what I'm wearing. I'm going to tell you about my works in progress. There's actually one new one this time. So it's not just the same ones that I'm showing you again and again. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about what I'm flirting with these days. First off, it's August the 12th, so it's 10 days since I recorded last time. I'm trying to get into the habit of maybe recording once a week and publishing once a week. I would like to do that. I would like to be able to keep up with the schedule, but we will see. That's a plan anyway. So today is August the 12th. It's the day of the solar eclipse, and in typical Icelandic fashion, the weather is very overcast. You can't see the sky at all. It looks like somebody put a big grayish white blanket over everything. But we will be able to see that it gets dark and then it gets light again. So it will be like a teeny tiny little night this afternoon. It is what it is. I've been so excited about this eclipse. I think it's probably like 5 years ago that I saw that it would be visible here if the sky would be clear. And I remember I was so excited because it's my youngest sister's 40th birthday today. So she was planning on coming over to Iceland. She lives in the States. She was planning on coming over to Iceland and watching the eclipse. And I'm very glad that she didn't spend a lot of money coming over here, because that would have been heartbreaking. But yeah, so I've been excited about this for like 5 years, and it's very typically Icelandic, overcast and rainy today. But who knows? Maybe the weather gods will smile on us and blow the sky clear. Even if it's just for like 20 minutes, that would be really nice. Who knows? We will see later on this today whether those hopes are worth anything. But it is what it is. So that's mostly what has been going on today. Yeah, overcast sky, rain, feeling very much like autumn. I can feel that the season is changing. Like I said last week, I talked about that I always feel like the last week of summer is on that first weekend in August, and that just feels very applicable. Right now it just feels like it's autumn already. It's rainy and chilly and perfect weather for layering lots of knits. Yeah, that's what's been going on here. So what I'm wearing right now, I'm wearing striped hand knit socks like I usually am. I really like self-striping yarn when I'm knitting socks, because I feel like it becomes this dopamine knit where I just want to finish one more row just to see if I can get to the next color. So usually my self-striping socks knit up very quickly. And if I have just a 2-color self-striping sock, usually I knit them up at the same time. So one, like grabbing one strand from the inside of the yarn cake and one from the outside, and then I just knit them at the same time, and I'm finished with a whole pair when I finish the sock. So there's no second sock syndrome if I knit them at the same time. But often, if I don't do that, then often I just knit one sock and then I don't knit the second one. And that's a bummer, because I never wear my single socks, even though I could technically just pair 2 single socks together and say that they're a pair. Maybe not sisters, but cousins or something like that. But anyway, I'm wearing hand knit self-striping socks from yarn that I bought from Hex Dye Works. This is a color called Hrafnhildur. And I knit these up maybe during COVID. I think that's probably around that time. So I've been wearing them quite a bit, and they're getting quite old and used, and that's what I like. That makes them so soft. I should probably check and see if they are starting to wear out. I haven't really been doing that, but I should do that definitely. And then I'm wearing my all-day culotte, which is a free pattern from Matchy Matchy Sewing Club. I sewed these up when I was in the States with my sister. She sewed her pair and I sewed my pair, and my niece also sewed a pair. So we all have the same pants, but with different fabrics. Mine are sewed up with a cotton linen twill from Matchy Matchy Sewing Club. And it's so comfortable. It's a really soft fabric, and I wear these all the time, as you probably have noticed. I should maybe sew myself a second pair, or well, a third pair. I sewed one pair from some thrifted sheets, just to see how the pattern would fit and if I needed to do any adjustments. But I do have some blue linen that I've had in my collection for like a year and a half, maybe. I bought it at Joann Fabrics a year and a half ago or 2 years ago when I was in the States. And I was planning on sewing a hinterland dress with it, but then I never got to it, and maybe it would be better used in another pair of these pants, because I use these a lot for, I use them, of course, just as normal trousers or normal pants, but also underneath my dresses when I'm layering and things like that. So they are really, it's such a comfortable pattern that I highly recommend if you want to if you want to sew up a pair of trousers or pants. The fit on these is great, and it's just an elasticated waist, so it's quite comfortable and easy to adjust. And then I am also wearing this top here. This is the sunshine tee that I knit up. I test knit this pattern when it came out some years ago, and it's been used quite a bit. It's a pattern by Gunnhildur Sigurhansdóttir, who is Vinda Knits on Instagram. Knit on 3.5 millimeter needles, US 4, and the yarn that I used is Finery from Garðbúð Eddu. And if you remember from my last episode, Garðbúð Eddu is the brand that my friend has. So, like, my friend dyes this yarn. The one who brought her store to my Milde publishing pattern party. So this is her sock base. It's 85% superwash merino and 15% nylon, if I remember correctly. And I really like this yarn for tops. I know that there's all kinds of debate about superwash or non-superwash and all of that. I just feel like when I do knit tops from non-superwash yarn, they tend to felt under my armpits, like where I'm hot and then I get sweaty and then it tends to felt under the armpits, and that's really uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to wear a top that has felted armpits because then they just become even hotter. So I do prefer superwash yarn for tops like this. And I also just like that I can throw it in the washing machine and then just lay it out to dry. It's less fiddly than non-superwash yarn. But to each their own. I don't have a strong opinion on this. I think that we should all just choose what we want. So this is Finery. I'm rambling today, I can hear it. My brain feels scattered. But this is the Sunshine Top by Gunnhildur Sigurhansdóttir, Vinda Knits on Instagram, in yarn from Garðbúð Eddu. I'm also wearing this Flótti cardigan, which is a pattern by Edda Lilja Guðmundsdóttir, who is also the friend that brought her yarn store here. So I'm wearing her yarn and I'm wearing her pattern and all of these things. But this is one of my favorite cardigans, and I always get so many compliments when I wear it. It looks so intricate, but then it's not so complicated. This was a pattern that was in a pom-pom issue. I don't remember which one, but it's also available as a single pattern now on Ravelry. It's knit on 5mm US 8 needles, and it's knit from so many different yarns that I don't actually remember what I have in this, because the checks here, like in every pattern row, I have a mohair held double with a yarn, like, so one of the colors in the row is mohair held double, and one of the colors would be not a fuzzy yarn like that, so just a fingering weight yarn. So I have 3 different mohairs held double in this, and then 3 different fingering weight yarns. And if I remember correctly, I think I grabbed mostly just from my collection here at home when I was pairing these. And I think that I bought the mohair specifically for this cardigan. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's comfortable. It was fun to knit because it was like with self-striping socks. I was always hoping to get on to the next color, like when I'm switching the colors. So it was quite fun, quite quick. I did modify the pattern so that I could knit it in the round, and then I just steeked it. The pattern is written for it to be knit back and forth, but I knit it in the round and steeked. It's knit bottom up, which is why the sleeves are a bit long for me. I'm always thinking that I need to get to shortening them, but then I never do because I just do this. Put them up here and then they're fine. What I love about this pattern, and I don't know if I can show you because I have my microphone on. Maybe I will do a B-roll, but I love that instead of weaving in all of the ends, Etta has us do a braid. So I just had to braid all of the ends together and call it a day. And it's stayed quite well like that. So it's none of it has come loose or anything. It just felt together a bit to keep them in place. So I highly recommend this if you have a colorwork sweater with lots and lots of different colors in every row. I don't know if I can, no, I steeked, so I don't have the braided. No, they're not braided on the fronts, but they are braided in the sleeves, and I was so happy to do that. And then I'm wearing a Milty scarf. This one was knit on 3.5mm needles, like all of my other samples. I knit all of them on 3.5mm needles, US 4, just so that I would at least have a point of reference with all of these different yarns that I used in my samples. So US 4, 3.5mm needles. This is Filcolana Mercy, and it's almost a whole skein of yarn. There was only a few meters left. Comfortable. It's a cotton blend, so it's not too warm. And it's quite nice to have when I'm inside as well. Yeah, so that's what I'm wearing. On to my works in progress. Maybe before I start this row. On to my works in progress. Maybe you are quite tired of seeing the same things, but it is what it is because I am a slow knitter, and knitting is a slow craft. And I think that part of the value in knitting is that it forces us to go slow. And I think in a world, in a society that moves really fast, everything moves fast, and everything is valued by productivity and optimization and how much output we have. I think knitting is extremely valuable to force us to slow down. I think slowing down is really good for our nervous system, and so I think everyone should knit. I think that maybe we would be able to slow down a bit if everyone would just knit or crochet or spin wool or sew or, do any of these woodworking, for example, any of these things that force us to use our hands and our brains and and make us slow down. I think that we could all benefit from that. So, surprisingly, my first object, my first work in progress, is my year-long blanket. And it's getting quite long. Now when I'm knitting, I can actually sit with it like this and I will knit and it feels like a blanket. I really am, I know I say this every time that I come on here, but I am enjoying this knit so much. So much, in fact, that I've been thinking about what I'm going to do next year. Like after I finish this blanket, if I want to cast on another one or if I want to cast on a different kind of blanket. But I'm really enjoying the simplicity of sitting down with this project, with my coffee in the morning and knitting just one garter bump. So one row back and forth will do while I'm drinking my coffee. It forces me to slow down when I'm drinking my coffee and eating my breakfast because sometimes I have the tendency to do things quickly. So just wolfing down my breakfast because I want to go and do something else and I don't want to spend the time on breakfast. So this is really helping with that. So this is a pattern by Sandra Granqvist. It's available on Ravelry as well. It's knit on 4mm needles, which is US 6. Sorry if this is really crinkly and loud. It's knit on US 6, and if you remember from last time, I was wondering what color to put in, and I found this skein of yarn from Hex Dye Works that I bought some years ago. I don't remember when, but I bought this to use for socks, and then I never got around to knitting it into socks. And now that I'm knitting it into the blanket, I'm feeling a little bit sad that I never got into knitting this for socks because I think this is a perfect sock yarn. It's BFL, so Blue-Faced Leicester Platinum HT Sock is the name of this base. And it's 80% superwash Blue-Faced Leicester and 20% nylon. And yeah, I wish I would have used it for socks. This is the color Sigrun, and I don't know if I said, but this is from Hex Dye Works, who is another friend of mine who dyes yarn here in Iceland. We've known each other for years, decades even. I met her when I was probably 18, so many years ago. And we've crossed paths so many times that we became really good friends. So yeah, that's my year-long blanket. This is how it's looking. I'm hoping to be able to maybe get August finished before going to Greenland next week. I fly over on Friday next week, so in 9 days. So maybe I will have to knit more than one row to get this finished before leaving, because then I don't come home until I think the 28th of August. And then I have another trip in the beginning of September. So this is my year-long blanket. You've seen it before, you will continue to see it until December, when I finish with my December color. Yeah, so this also you have seen many, many times. I cast this on in April, I think. So I think you've seen this on probably every episode since I started. I don't know if you know this, but I started my YouTube channel on April 1st. So that if it was terrible, I could just tell myself that it was an elaborate April Fool's joke. But joke's on me, it was not. But this is my Veronica tee. It's knit on 3mm needles, US 2.5. So it's a slow knit, slow process, enjoyable. It's a size of needle that I really enjoy having in my hands, so I have enjoyed this quite a bit. As you can see, since last time I have bound off the bottom edge and tacked it up to the top, or up to, it's a folded, not a folded brim. It's a folded cuff hem. It's a folded hem. And I enjoy that sometimes, but this time not so much. But I did manage to get it finished, and I'm hoping that once I block it, it will stay flat and not upturned like this. But this is going to be great when it's finished. I'm really looking forward to having this in my wardrobe. I think a basic tee is just a valuable piece in my wardrobe, and having it, knitting it myself makes it that much more valuable, I think. This is knit from the vegan bamboo and linen blend, also from Hex Dye Works. Yeah, it's a design by LG Designs on Ravelry. If I remember correctly, Creative Daydreams on Instagram. I will check and put it on the screen with the information about the pattern. But it's a beautiful pattern. I just have the sleeves left, and they are short sleeves, and I haven't started them because it wasn't as simple as I thought it would be. So I just haven't given myself time to actually sit and read the pattern directions line by line. And it's not something that is so overly complicated that if I just go line by line, it's going to be fine. But because it wasn't just, pick up all of the stitches and then just knit, I just need to give myself time to sit down and do that, and I haven't. So this is my Veronica tee by LG Designs, and I love it. I am so excited to get it into my closet, into my wardrobe, that I don't know why I'm procrastinating starting the sleeves. But you know me now, you know how I work. I do the things very slowly. My other thing that I have on my needles is this that you saw me knitting on earlier. This is the pink cloud sweater. It doesn't have a name because I'm just using a knittable pattern. So I have said this many times before, knittable.com is a website where you can put in your gauge and you can select what you want to knit with that gauge, and it will generate a pattern for you. So this is a sweater that I'm knitting for my 3-year-old granddaughter. Very simple. I decided to not do any decreases on the sleeves, mostly because I just wanted a brainless knit, so like a knit that I just didn't have to think about until I'm down to the cuff, and then I will do decreases before doing the cuff. It's knitting up really nicely, although I'm not really enjoying knitting with the Make It Persian thread that I'm using, because if I don't have the yarn on like this, I don't know what this is called, but it's a piece of wood that goes onto this stand, and then it spins when I pull the thread. So when I don't have this this thread on this kind of spinner, it just really gets like caught in all of the other beads, and it's kind of annoying to knit with. And because it gets caught, it's difficult to bring with me. Like, I brought this to a coffee house yesterday on a coffee and knit date with my friend, and like this is not an understated knit setup when you go to a coffee house to have this on the table and spinning every time that you're trying to get some more yarn. It was just, yeah. So I will be happy when this is finished, which is why I've been knitting on this a bit when I'm home. So yeah, this is this pink fluffy cloud shimmery sweater that doesn't have a name. It's knit on 3.5 millimeter US 4 needles. The yarn basis that I'm using is Glimmerski, which is a Suri alpaca from Uppfit. And I will put her Instagram information on the screen somewhere. She is also an Icelandic dyer that lives up in the north. And when I saw this yarn at the yarn festival that I went to in the beginning of June, I don't know how many times I walked by and hoped that someone else would buy it. Because I don't need pink yarn. Like, I don't wear pink. This is not my color. But Victoria, my 3-year-old granddaughter, she loves pink. And so she will be quite happy with this. And she's so excited about this. When we went to the playground to play on Saturday or Sunday, she met someone there and she was telling them that this is my Sandra Amma, which is, my Amma Sandra. And she's really good at knitting. She's knitting a pink fluffy sweater for me. So she's quite excited about this, and she is probably the most knit-worthy person that I know. So she's quite excited about this. Yeah, not much more to say. I decided to do yarn overs here for the increases because that's something that I just really like the look of right now. And I did a folded detail here at the bottom of the neckline. And then I will be picking up some stitches on the inside to knit up a bit of a turtleneck so that at least her neck will be warm when she is wearing this. Yeah. Oh, I'm using the Glimmerski from Uppfit and also Make It Persian, which is a cotton thread with beads in it. So it's quite shimmery because the Glimmerski is a Suri alpaca with like this holographic thread going through it that makes it the 3-year-old's dream. It's a beautiful, beautiful yarn. And then the beads are just making it even that much more glittery. So it would be a fun sweater when it's finished, although I'm not enjoying the process of knitting with the beaded yarn very much. Another thing, I have a new cast on. And I forgot to say I have no finished objects, but I think that was implied when I just went straight into works in progress. So last week you saw that I was choosing colors for my Rappi sweater, and I cast that on, and it is everything that I dreamed of. This is Rappi by Edda Lilja Guðmundsdóttir. It's available on Ravelry in Icelandic and English. It's knit on 4 millimeter US 6 needles, and yeah, it's been on my mind for years. So I saw this when she was knitting up the prototype and when she was making during the design process itself, way before it was published, and I have wanted this sweater for a very long time. So I decided to cast it on. You saw last week that I was struggling a bit with the color choices. So the reason why I stopped knitting right now is because I haven't quite decided what my next color will be. I had picked out this beautiful autumn leaves color from Dóttir Dye Works, but it just blends in with both the dark color and also with the yellow, so the pattern doesn't become very visible. So then I also pulled out this, but I'm not sure if I have enough of this color. So right now I am stuck. I haven't found the perfect color to continue. So maybe I will just go and visit Etta again and see if I can buy a color that will work for this. But I'm quite excited about this. I think this will be a beautiful piece when it's finished. It's knit from Fineri from Etta Lilja from Gatbud Ettu. Yeah, not much more to say other than that I'm really excited to finish this. The other things that I have that I talked about last time, I was flirting with some pattern. I haven't cast any of them on, but I mentioned the Passing Light tea by Skonsa, and she very kindly gifted me the pattern, and I'm so incredibly grateful. So thank you, Skonsa. I have some yarn ideas. Ooh, I have this basket that I have things in when I'm still contemplating. So this is a pattern that is knit on 3.5 millimeter needles, US 4, but it's a very open gauge. I think it's 18 stitches per 10 centimeters in pattern. And I saw that one of the stores that I usually shop with, that is up in the north of Iceland, had a sale on Isager Hör Organic, which is the linen, 100% organic linen from Isager. So I decided to order this for this top. I thought that I had ordered like a green color, but I didn't. I ordered khaki, and I don't know if you remember, I was talking about this in my last episode or the one before, that my Knitting for Olive Pure Silk Milde is almost the exact same color as this one that is from the Mercy from Filkalana. And now I've bought myself a like a t-shirt worth of linen in almost the exact same color. And now that I'm looking to the side, so I keep part of my yarn collection is here, mostly like the yarn that I have wound up, caked up, and leftovers and things like that are like right here next to me in the dining room. But I realized that this is almost the same color as the main color in my Rappi sweater as well. So for some reason, I'm really gravitating towards this color, but I thought that I had ordered green, and then I looked at my my order, and I definitely ordered this one. So so apparently this is a color that I am happy to add to my wardrobe. But then I also realized that my husband gifted me some Knitting for Olive Pure Silk for Christmas or my birthday last year. I can never remember, like when I get birthday and Christmas gifts, I can never remember which is which because my birthday is on December 29th. So they're so close that I can never remember what was a birthday gift and what was a Christmas gift. But he went to Garnigangi in November, which is the yarn store up in Akureyri in the north of Iceland. And he got some assistance in choosing something for me. And he gifted me Knitting for Olive Pure Silk in this sunflower color. And I mean, he knows me well enough to know that this is my favorite color. So I probably didn't need to order this khaki linen because I think I'm going to knit the top maybe just from this. So when I knit the Passing Light tee, it will either be from Knitting for Olive Pure Silk. I saw that Svana, one of the testers that knit hers from Pure Silk. I think it was held single. So if I get her permission, I will put a picture of that here on the screen as well because I thought it looked so beautiful. It's got this beautiful drape, and yeah, I think I would like to have it in this yellow, but maybe, who knows, maybe I will just do two, because I feel like all of the testers that I was following along while they were knitting this, they were all so quick with this knit, and everyone said that it was fun, like, because it was a dopamine knit that you would knit a whole piece of the pattern just to get to the next part of the pattern. So I'm really looking forward to this. And I will probably cast it on when I come back from Greenland. I don't think I will cast anything on before going, except for maybe a pair of socks to take with me. The other thing that I am flirting with and I have plans for, like I have made plans for this a while ago. I did a swatch for this in March, and I bought the yarn before Christmas. So the next that I really want to knit is the Come Back Again by Andrea Mowry. I would really like to add another cardigan into my wardrobe. Most of the cardigans that I have currently are getting too big. So I am going to knit this. I haven't cast it on yet because I know it's going to be like a long process knit. And I feel like I don't want to cast on a long process knit until I've finished my Veronica tee and the pink sweater, just so that I don't have so many projects that I'm carrying on for months at a time. So I am going to cast this on sometime in autumn, hopefully soon, because that would mean that my Veronica tee is ready and also the pink sweater. But the yarn that I'm going to be knitting this from is from granddaughters. It's Suri Sport, which is 50% Suri alpaca and 50% merino. And it's a grippy but really soft yarn. So it feels woolly, but it also feels soft, if that makes sense. It's like yeah, I am quite excited about this. So yeah, those are my plans. Those are what I'm flirting with. These are my works in progress, which haven't changed very much. My husband goes back to work tomorrow, so his summer vacation is almost over, which means that everything is just getting back into rhythm. And I assume that at least those of you who are in the Northern Hemisphere, that you are also getting back into rhythm after the summer. I know that my nephew started high school yesterday, so school is back up, at least in Florida, which is crazy. I think, all of you who have kids who are going into, the next grade or the next part of their education, everything just goes by so fast, and it's such a privilege to get to watch them grow up and become these adults who are capable of handling life and everything that brings. So yeah, I think getting back into rhythm is going to be a welcome change, at least for me. I'm looking forward to the autumn. I hope those of you in the Southern Hemisphere are looking forward to spring. I know that after winter, at least here, and maybe it's not the same for you, but after winter here, I'm always so happy to see spring, things starting to bloom, and yeah. So I hope that you are enjoying whatever season it is that you are in. I hope that you are enjoying whatever season of life that you're in as well. And yeah, are able to remind yourself of showing grace to yourself and to others. Remembering that, the rocks in our shoes are annoying and distracting and sometimes cause us to be jerks, myself included. I'm really, yeah, I'm always so grateful to this friend of mine who brought this up, because it really opened my eyes when she said this for the first time, that she always reminds herself that she doesn't know anything about the rocks in other people's shoes. So yeah, so with that, I am going to leave you here. Thank you for staying. Thank you for watching. Thank you for coming back if you are coming back. And thank you for being here if you're here for the first time. I'm truly grateful for you and I don't take you for granted. So enjoy your week and I will see you next time. Bye.